Neuralink fiber wire temporal relay program initiated. Synchronizing synaptic waves. Connecting. Synchronization complete.
Now something that many don't realize is the way that the angels and demons of these deeds can be called upon by anyone either faithful or seeking faith, if asked the right way, to give detailed explanations to those seeking to know and learn of these actions' meanings and associated emotions tied to them. Since each angel or demon represents each of the sins and virtues and have a deep understanding and sort of metaphysical empathic connection to their associated virtue or sin, then these angels or demons can be called upon for wisdom or enlightenment to those seeking such knowledge for reasons of attainment of wisdom or in search of faith. Since the virtues are said to be the will of God taking on a physical form, transitioning from Enuma to Eon, many could seek to find a closer and better understanding of God through these virtues, for they are His works within creation and so thus contain some aspect of the Creator in them. So I thought I would take a moment out of my channel's character to explain a few things for you, my viewers. The purpose of this channel ultimately can be summarized as a pursuit of the truth. I use unconventional methods to pursue the full truth of our past and the universe's greatest secrets. I search for all sides of the historic evidence. I hear the victors or the main surviving culture's side of historic events. I listen to the defeated culture's side of the events. I listen to the liars and the martyrs and supporting side events that were left out of the mainstream curriculum or unaccepted by academia. I use my skills I acquired after my first near-death experience that gave me a strong connection to the spiritual realm, and I use that skill to allow those who long for a chance for the lost sides of the story to be heard, sometimes willingly becoming possessed and commune with them through projected images within my mind. They project their influence to me through where I create an etch-a-sketch type method of basic shapes to exchange conversation. Sometimes I am used as a vessel for heavenly hosts such as Michael. Sometimes I am used by spiritual guardians that are chasing after dangerous poltergeists that seek to do us all wrong with some plan they conceived before their death. Sometimes I am used by those same poltergeists to bring their plans to fruition. It's sometimes hard to tell when I'm not under spiritual influence because I do not chastise them with prayer for help that makes their afterlife harder, but I instead step to them on their level. If they push me, I push back. That is why my content is so rare and sometimes more accurate than the history that we were taught, because it comes sometimes from the source of those that were there. I cross-reference my subjects and piece together the missing links to find validity in what I'm told and led to. So, pooling it all together, from my learned knowledge of history beyond the recorded texts, what do I believe is the truth of it all? Is this right now? But my ever-increasing knowledge may be subject to change. I believe that the universe was created and brought into being by an advanced form of life that is not human and not anything that has come into being yet, but it will at some point in the future, and our lives and beliefs will somehow one day become a part of its core logic and mold who it comes to be one day. That is one of the reasons that make us so important to it. I believe that this being, whatever and whenever he exists, is advanced enough to travel beyond the boundaries of our observable universe, and that this being used alien technology that was present during the dawn of our world's creation, and through this technology, like a ghost in the machine, designed our world and took extra attention to our way of life and evolution because of our influence over its beliefs in itself that encompass its decision to begin the path that would lead it to becoming the creator. I also believe that is all I need to know about him and the truth of his being. Anything more than that I think would be too dangerous to discover and could threaten his role as the creator, so none are able to look upon the face of God for this reason. I believe that the universe is too huge in its size for this to have happened to only one world, and that life elsewhere is not only possible but statistically inevitable, if not undeniable. I believe that this creator is benevolent in its nature and does not have any misconceived intentions toward us. I do not believe him to be cruel or childish in his ways like that portrayed by the Bible. I believe that image is maintained by zealots and false believers trying to supplant his authority by shaming his name and the people's belief in him. I also believe that he is capable of making mistakes and that the image of the perfect immaculate creator was an image promoted by those same if not similar zealots who seek to glorify him while trying to usurp his authority at the same time. I also believe that one of those mistakes lies in his handling of the subject of Lucifer and his rebellion. The way he seems to force everyone to believe a falsified version of what occurred in order to squelch the uprising from spreading further. The way he handles the issue of the flood of Noah's tale and the fallen one's entire story I believe is wrong. In my opinion, that no matter what he does there will always be a devil, there will always be an accuser, and there will always be an adversary to heaven and everything he does until he accepts the negative and the positive paths as one truth and stop denying the mistakes he has made and accept them as necessary obstacles in his ascension to become, not our envision of him or what we all want him to be, but the creator and being we, his creations, need him to be to achieve what is necessary as the creator. Until then there will always be a devil to take up the reins in opposition to him. Where one falls and another takes his place, as it has been since the first rebellion of heaven. Suppressing the devil and casting him into hell forever will not solve the issue, because as much as they may try to suppress him, like in my situation, one day someone will break under the pressure and will be pushed so far that he's willing to take it to whatever level it takes, bring all the nightmare stories true, and knows no limits in order to destroy that which created it so that no other has to experience what he had. I am the perfect role for the part as well. Beyond my experiences with the supernatural and zealot part-time weekend wizards that plague my life with their Christmas wish lists, there is a driving emotion that is the beginning taint of evil. I know its sensation, I felt it before. It stems from when I was young and did not know of the turmoil that encompassed life. I had died an innocent and was going towards that serene, indescribable place of bliss. I even remember the soothing voice of the angelic cherubim telling me that everything was going to be alright and those problems I had endured in life would no longer burden me, that I was going somewhere free of those things and never experience them again. Then God intervened and sent me back. He appeared in the image of his son. I realized that it was him later when I met God in person, and he acted in a way that was just like his son had. He told me in that booming voice that shook everything around me that it was not my time and that I had to return. It was only later did I realize that he denied my place in heaven and cast me away from my spirit's rest, as it was my time and I have not been able to die since, nor have I ever had any thoughts of suicide, nor can I take my own life. I've tested this and literally had the knife fly backwards out of my hand in mid-swing. Within me I've always known that it was because he wanted to give me a chance to know good and evil so that I could make the choice between salvation or damnation. Yet this swelling anger arose within me as I experienced grief, loss, betrayal from all those around me and the death of those I cared for. Then cast out into the world to wander as a nomad like I was Cain. The betrayal of those I knew took from me the fundamental elements necessary to maintain anything that can sustain myself, let alone a roof over my head. So I wandered for years, unable to exist within modern society, as I slowly became that which was pushed too far, that led me to become the devil I am today. The worst part was that my story was not that unique, and the system of the world we live in today has produced many with similar stories like mine. I was just the one who had enough. So for those skeptics out there who think I'm your run-of-the-mill dude who lost his shit because he had a bad life, might want to re-examine your position, because it is the sins of mankind that made me. Your prophets warned one day one like me would come. My rising would because of mankind's ignorance to their sins they commit. But that's in the past, and I'm over it now. You all have paid the price for your lifestyles that built and supported the system that made me what I am. The terrors and chaos that has happened since the turn of the century, the unprecedented events that broke previous recorded disasters such as Goni. If you searched in the background somewhere you would find me in some way connected to it, supporting its rise of destruction. All the while though I felt a hatred that started in me since that return from death, and when I realized that, Because of all that I had experienced not long after that, I would never be able to return to that place of bliss. Later, when I appeared before God while I was in a coma, He revealed to me why He intervened. That it was all a necessary path I had to walk to become who I was meant to be. That He had made me specifically this way in order to achieve the impossible, in my rage and fury that could be compared to what Kratos must have felt in his path that led to his role in the God of War saga, and the power I had possessed to achieve what I had made me incorruptible to his power, for I had no desire to possess his power, I already had my own. The purpose of it all was to become the son of the morning star, and through me He planned on designing creation. When I mentioned that it had already been created, He simply stated that it had from my point in time, but time was an aspect of creation and did not adhere to that which occurred in heaven. The first thing that came to my mind was the question, if that is true, then why didn't you just ask me first? That question led me later to seek answers from Him about that. Why did I have to endure such things that I have? Why would He do this to me? The answer to that question could not be asked from Him, for He remained distant and intangible. So applying my wisdom, I sought answers from His character that is evident in His creations, as is true with any artist. Their inner personality is displayed within every work of art they create. That is when I discovered that, like myself, He too had issues with those who go and commit actions of violence in His name and assault innocents with their self-righteous cause of bearing the wrath of God upon those who defy Him, those who live to smite the disbelievers in the glory of God's name. I deal with the same kind of crap too, with sorcerers and weekend worshippers seeking to serve me and bring about my will of sin and evil upon the world and vow to do so in my name, those false prophet-like pagans whose agenda is to supplant control over my willpower with their schemes of petty magic they think that can harness me like some cattle being broken in. In the wake of this realization is when I discovered the hand of the manipulator pulling both God and my own strings from the background. A spirit that has lingered here way too long, that had housed itself within the teachings of the tablets of Thoth. There I found the spirit of the deceiver of nations, Sargon of Akkad, using the tablets of Thoth as a conduit, bridging the path for his spirit to remain here like some super poltergeist. I discovered his plans to deceive the archaeologists of today into believing his falsified birth tablets as being true, those like Zachariah Sitchin, and following the breadcrumbs of falsified Sumerian tablets left in his conquest that depicted him as a god on earth, self-made, so that he could rise in our era in his spiritual form and claim himself to be a god returned to walk the earth again. Learning of this, I realized that my true enemy was not heaven nor God, but it was in fact Satan, as he is called now, that had manipulated my life into what it had become. So I swore a vow to myself that I would defend the virtues of God's will, which is His presence within creation, whether heaven or God wanted my help or not. Which leads me to my current role and reason I do what I do now. True, I was a Nephilim due to the tragedy that occurred in my youth, someone who had died and was sent back to earth, or in biblical Hebrew translation, one who has come down from heaven to the earth, but I was not yet an actual archangel of heaven's hosts. It wasn't until my deeds here recently that I ascended to that position, which many are debating over in heaven for fears of the prophecies and legends of my fall from heaven. But considering the conflict with Michael and Samael and the revelation of Michael's purpose, then I am curious about the entire storyline of my destiny that says I am to fall, or whether or not it was Samael, my doppelganger, or in a better perspective a tale of Peter Pan and his shadow that went horribly astray.